Okay, I can't promise that I'm working on anything super amazing today, but I'm definitely doing some stuff that I have to do. Let me turn this down just a little bit. I've gone and fixed up all my button sounds a bit. They're less intrusive. You can kind of hear them here. Let's just go in here and load a game where it's quieter. You can hear the little clicks, and I've added currently it's doing a double click thing, or double button effect. So low click when you click on it, and then when you let go, it pops back out. And all of this works with the arrow keys and using the enter button and stuff. You might have also seen I've added a little hourglass animation to the cursor there, so when it's loading up into the game, there's also a new little loading cursor that I made there. I might change that to something digital. Who knows? I do like the old hourglass. So there's a number of things I've been working on. Let's allow resolution change here first. So part of the challenge of making games, making a game with these kinds of crazy interfaces everywhere, is I might also have to consider that people have different screen sizes and different resolutions and all that. And in 001, there's a number of things that work together for providing scalable interfaces, and that's what I'm working on right now. You can see, first I'll jump into the title screen. So the background map, let me turn that down. I haven't fixed the zoom or anything for the background map, but I'm mostly working on interface elements right now. So as you can see, like right here, when it's standard size, everything's in the center. You can stretch the window out and everything stays the same. You can also squish it down a bit until there's almost nothing left. Everything stays the same. You can make it full screen. I haven't done anything to fix the background here. So the map, this is separate. It's a camera field, so it's doing some different stuff. I'd have to consider zooming and moving things or panning things. So right now, that's not what I'm worried about. So let me start that over just to get back to my normal resolution. Loading. Alright, so I'll jump back in here, load my game. The hardest one was getting these sidebars and this bottom bar and all of this stuff, like the positioning of the frames and whatnot, to stay in the same place. So if you watch the videos in the very beginning of this series, I go over how I made these little floating icons that hover around the side of the map, and they're based on the size of this viewable camera area, so it doesn't matter how much you stretch it out, it's just based on how big this is. And I can make this full screen and I still have everything centered, my display here in the middle. I've got all this is up here in the corner. My interfaces, currently things stay centered if they're main menus and options menus. The star chart's kind of weird. It's centered in the middle, and then when you dock on planets, this is stuff that I'm gonna have to consider if I want to keep. Right now, you're gonna see two of these display areas because I haven't fixed up the docking menu yet. So this part here is most likely going to be down here at the bottom, and this will be in the center. We'll see what I get to. That's what I'm thinking at the moment, and you can return it to normal and it'll squish things in. If you get too far, it starts to look messy, but you can squish it in pretty small if you want to play with that small of an area, or you can stretch it out. You can also scooch this down. You lose some of this area here if you squish it down too much. So that's stuff that you might have to consider if you're making a game using 001, and you'll want to have scaling included in all of your interfaces. So that's where over here the window sprite comes in handy. This one right here, I think it's just getting stretched. Yeah, I kind of want it to be a window sprite as well. So 192 by 720. Oops. And what window sprites do is they resize. It's a method called 9-tiling, or 9-tile stretching. I don't think it's called stretching. It's a 9-tile, I believe, is the way it's described. It splits the graphic into like a grid so that the corners and the edges here, they get duplicated. The edges get duplicated as you stretch the shape or the size, and same for the width, they get duplicated. And you kind of see a little line down the center here as I'm resizing it. You can see where that split is happening, and I just want to undo that, get it back to normal size, and that way when I resize the window, this will stretch correctly. I don't think I had it set up right. For some reason, I thought I had it set as a window sprite, or window field. So, okay, come back into the game. Windows, they can cause some frame rate loss. I'm still getting the same frame rate that I had, and as you see, if I stretch this out, this just duplicates along the y-axis and stretches out, rather than stretching the entire graphic. Sometimes can have some artifacts, but just depends on what you're doing. If you're using just a basic solid color interface, that's not even a problem. So these bottom ones here are getting resized too. And the way that's working, there's these maintain distance from edge boxes or crosses. It's a little bit confusing with if you have dark mode on, this thing is inverted here. So if you mouse over it, it says when cross lines are filled in, the field will be aligned to these edges. And this little black bar, normally it looks like this. This looks like they're filled in. It's the opposite. If you have the dark mode on, they're filled in when they're white, not when they're black. So that might be a little misleading at first. So what this is maintain distance from the top, the right, and the bottom. And so this will keep it aligned to the top edge, the right edge, and the bottom edge when the screen is resized. So there's nothing in here. It's just a window sprite. The more complicated bits are these little guys. I'll turn this on because they're specifically aligned. This one's aligned so it's resizing from the right edge, and this one's aligned so it's resizing from the left edge. If you're using 001, there's sort of an example of this in the Space Shooter demo. If you go into the main HUD, you can examine some of the interface elements there that I worked on a couple years back. They're actually just stretching a piece of the interface so that it stays the same size as the rest. And I had to do a little bit of calculating, but all these are doing are, I'm using a script in the retrieve width use value here. And it doesn't require any of this. I just haven't gone through and cleaned up everything. Now, this is kind of old. I copied this over from one of my old projects, so I don't actually need all of this here. Bloop, bloop. All this is doing here is I've made a local variable called interface size, and there are two parts that I need to check. I need to get the size, the X size, which is the width of this piece here that's called menu bottom. Let me just open that. That's the menu bottom. And then this piece over here is called flight menu BG. I'm adding those together because they are static. They don't move or resize. And so it's giving me a number. I believe this one's 192, and it's giving me the width of this one. Just in case I ever resize these, I'm just retrieving the size X rather than a static number. And then down here, I'm taking the full size of the screen and subtracting this value from it. So the screen size X value will be how wide the window is. That's determined by whatever the player resizes the window to. And then I'm subtracting my local variable here, which is going to take the width of the screen, it's going to subtract the width of this and the width of that, which will basically give me the remainder. The remaining value that I get there is the combined width of these two bars. Because as I stretch the window, this sidebar is going to stay the same size. This display area is going to stay the same size. So this is going to subtract a static number pretty much and give me the number that's left. And to make that make sense, I'm dividing that by 2 because these are equal size. These are going to be equal size, and I'm getting a number that's equal to these two combined. So it's actually 176 times 2. I had my calculator open up earlier. 176 times 2. So the total space these occupy right now is 352 pixels, 352 pixels. And as the screen gets wider and wider, it's going to subtract the width of this box and this box. And technically, if I were to, put these together, this is 192 plus, I think this is 700 something, 736. So it's going to take the full width of the screen and subtract 928. So let's say the screen is 2048. We're subtracting 928. Was it 928? Yeah. Subtracting 928 from 2048 gives me a value of 1120. And 1120 is going to be the space that's left. And these two boxes will get stretched out to that value. So I actually want this value divided by 2 because each of these needs to be 560. So say 560. Each of these bars will get stretched out to 560. That's pretty long. And then they'll fill in the gaps around the bottom of the screen. Okay, well, I can just move all these back. There's also one more little thing here. There's a trigger called Screen Size Orientation Changed. I've noticed that it fires from interfaces whether they're turned on or not. So I always have to put this little condition in here to check if this interface is turned on. But what I want to do is, if this interface is turned on and the screen is changed, the screen size is changed, update this interface, because none of these are set to update real time. I only want them to update when the screen size is changed. Otherwise, they'll keep running this every frame. This little script will run every frame, and it slows things down. That's not what I want. The other half of that is my camera here. I have to have it set to maintain the distance from this upper left corner, since it's currently oriented at the top left like this anyway. I also want it to stay in this top corner here. So it's maintaining distance from the top edge and the left edge. So when the screen is resized, this whole field will move up and to the left instead of over to the right or anything. And down here I've got a couple retrieve size maths if you will. So let me jump into one of my text files here. It's super simple. All I'm doing is, as we saw here, I'm subtracting the size of this sidebar. I think it's always going to be 192. I don't think it ever gets wider, but just to keep things nice and linked through scripting IDs, I'm just subtracting this size from the screen size. So if the screen's 2048, 2048, I'm subtracting 192 from that. That leaves me with a value of 1,856. So it actually stretches my camera out to 1,856 wide. That's only if I had a screen that big, but I don't. It's just doing the same thing in the Y here, checking the size of the bottom bar here, and it keeps it maintained. There's a couple other small details that I have to add for positioning things on screen, which if you were following along in my earlier videos, these aren't really tutorial videos. It's more like just kind of documenting everything that I do when I'm working on this project. But when you put your mouse cursor over one of these objects like a planet or something, this is pretty messy because I've done a lot of scooting things around. And I've just added screen size X and screen size Y minus to the beginning of what I had here before. So earlier, and I want to say it was probably the first couple videos that I did any of this, it's taking the X of the currently selected object, or the X and Y, it's subtracting it from the main player's ship's position, and then it's just adding half width of the full screen camera, the main play area. And all that does is position the highlighter frame. That's a field on an interface. It's not an actor on a map, it's a field on an interface. It's positioning that relative to where the player is on a map. So all that's wonderful and confusing and ridiculous. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't actually remember if I need to use this or not. I'll find out as I go. Mostly, I've been trying to clean up my scripts, clear out unused nodes here and there. There's some stuff over here that I don't really think I need anymore, but I want to go through and comment some stuff. I've been working on interface sounds a lot, adding my button sounds. And there's a couple tricks to that because as a placeholder, I was just using the got highlight trigger here to play a sound effect whenever you moved your mouse cursor over one of these, or if you moved with your arrow keys, it would change the selected field and play a sound. But there's a problem with that because whenever you enter an interface, if you're using the got highlighted trigger or got highlight trigger to play a sound, it will play the sound as soon as you enter the interface because the field will get selected or highlighted. It will just trigger the sound right off the bat, and that's not what I want. Every time I would start the game, go to the title screen, it would just play the sound because the field got highlighted. So the way I want to avoid that, or to fix that, I've added the sound to these navigated triggers here. So whenever you move up or down with the arrow keys or whatever keys you have set up, it's going to trigger the navigated up and the navigated down triggers. And so I've gone ahead and just put my button highlight sound effect in here. That way when you move with the arrow keys, it'll play the sound every time it switches between these. And in order to add the sound to the buttons when you move your mouse over it, you can't use the got highlight trigger because that will make the sound fire every time you open the interface. So just added it into a mouse touch enter trigger here. And I'm doing a quick little check to see if the selector, the name of the selector might be different for every interface. So I'm just checking to see if the selector field is at the same position as this one. So if it's at the same Y position, It won't be if it's highlighting another field. So when you move your mouse into this this choice here, this menu choice, the selector will not be at this current Y position, and it will play the highlight sound. And then if you move your mouse over it several times, it will be at the same position, so it'll take this left path and won't play any sounds at all. So that's been a complicated process because I have to go through all my menus and do that. And the way I had things set up before was kind of messy. Oh, I need my beverage. Tasty raspberry lemonade. It's hard to hear the sounds because they're really quiet. I don't want them to be intrusive or anything. Cool little hourglass. Now, the second half of that, pretty much, whenever you click or press enter on something, it plays the little sound, the pressed sound. Now, that's the high-pitched version. It's the up click. I haven't gone through and added it to every single one of these. This, I think I have actually on the menu. The main menu, you click on a button and it goes a low. I can't do it. It does a low click, and then when you let go, it does a high click. So it's like I have to go through my various menus and add these sounds in because I don't have them anywhere. Currently, I've gotten through about half of them. I don't have any of my sound effects in here, which I should put in here. I want this to be my highlight sound. I'm just going to copy paste. Oh, I forgot to change my commenting too. Don't want to confuse myself later just copying and pasting something that says highlight when it's not, or pressed. My poor lungs have never been the same after having multiple runs with COVID. So in this case, my condition branch, let me just click OK here. It's going to be the game over selector. So I want to say if field game over selector dot y is equal to field this dot y. And if they're not, play the highlight sound. Don't remember why these are here. I can actually just copy that and delete that and paste that. So now that menu's got sound for highlighting buttons and all that. The accepted sound effect is actually the press button. Switch back to the press, is the press sound effect. Set to, yeah. So I'll copy that one, come back in here, and in my mouse touch down here, I want it to go and play it at 0.7, so it'll be a lower click. Do the same thing here. Toss that in there. Excuse me. Now, back to my main menu. I have to do something similar for every single one of these. Just gotta lower the pitch in most cases because I've got the sound set up otherwise, but everything's set so it's all the same pitch, so it's going instead of so mouse touch down to play a 0.7 tick. Beep, beep, beep. Oh my gosh. I've been working on setting this up all day, or the last couple days actually. Just a lot of copying, pasting, getting things in the right place, breaking stuff on accident. Let's come back in here. I don't think I have it all set up in there. I do want it set here. Oh, I haven't set up all of these yet. Let's just throw that in there. Oops. I'm on a mouse touch down trigger. I don't think I can click on anything else yet. I haven't set up menus for everything here. And then my save game menu, I have to do the same thing. Oh, so many. I had thought about setting it up like this when I first put it all together. Sometimes you do this to yourself and you have to go through, change a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll go ahead and do the last one here. 0.7. And I don't remember if I have any other. Oh yes, I do. Tone that one down. Turn that one down. Check my accepted. I want the loud one or the higher pitched one. Oh, so many. So I'll come back in here. I don't actually think I can click on these yet. Can't test them, but I can test the deploy probe. And come back in here, check that's there. Okay, now let's see if all my buttons go. Clicky. All right. Well, not quite all of them, but gotta go do the delete universe interface still. unfortunately, all I've really been working on is all this interface nonsense. Everything has to be specifically set to adhere or maintain distance from different corners. So I had to go through and set up all these lines. I've also got to go through and put in all my button press sound effects, which has been quite annoying, quite bonkers. I do want these to be the same. Mouse touch down plays the lower pitch. I haven't set up the mine and hail buttons yet. Humans, welcome to watching. Put the normal higher pitched one in here. I haven't tested it with my little context menu here, so let's see what that does. Little context menu, you can't use the keyboards. Well, you can't activate the buttons with keyboard controls, but you can click on them. So let's see.
Out of range.
Yep.
Out of range.
Cool.
Out of range.
So now it has the sound of like a button.
Out of range.
However, that sound fires anywhere. So it happens anywhere you click on the interface, and that's something I'll have to solve too, because I don't want that to be a thing. I need it to only happen if you're hovering over a button, so there's a couple ways I can fix that.
Docking.
Okay. I have to copy. There's a mouse over sound here that's happening. I think I forgot to swap it out of this. Yeah, okay. Don't want the sound to be in the highlight. I want it to be here in the mouse over. So whenever the mouse enters, first I also have to add that little condition. Let's just put it there first. I have navigation selector as the selector for this interface. So I want to set that to field navigation selector .y. Field this .y. And if it's not, play the sound. Let's scoop that. This is the highlight sound, not the button press sound. I also want to put that in here. And if it's not, play the highlight sound. So I never fixed that little condition, apparently. Hourglass.
Docking.
There we go. Perfect. Now, the hard part, or not even hard, I'm gonna have to make sure that it's not doing this. Unless I'm clicking on something, so. What I can do, I believe, flight buttons, want a selected field to be none. I think. I don't know if this is what I want to do or not. I'm sure. I'll just try this. I want it to have nothing selected so that I can check that if something is selected, then it will play that sound. Otherwise, don't do that. So turned on. Alright. Now, here in my accepted trigger, I want a condition to check currently selected field of this interface. I can just check this selected field, make sure that it's not nothing. And if it's not nothing, play the sound. Now, I don't know. It might just auto-select something. Because it activates anywhere you click on the interface. But not if you click on a map. Not quite what I want it to do. But that works. So the other trick, not even a trick, let's kill that. I'll take that out of all of these. And I could make a separate variable that is a 1 or a 0 if you're hovering over one of these, but I've got another solution. So every time you put your mouse over one of these, I currently already have a variable, so when you mouse over, it puts a description in this variable here called flight hover. A description pops up in this little box down here, and then when your mouse leaves, it clears that description. So that's as good as a 1 or 0. One thing you can keep in mind to limit the number of variables you have is try and find multiple uses for the same variables. If it's something like this anyway, this value here it doesn't matter what's in here, it will always either have something there or it won't. That is literally the same thing as a switch or a binary 1 or 0. So if you have your mouse cursor over one of these, this will have a description and it will be full. And if you move your mouse off, there will be nothing there, so it will not have a description. So I'm going to use that as my condition. And I want to check to see if the interface variable of this interface called flight hover is not nothing. Whoop. So that won't work for this field, or this interface. I'll definitely be able to come up with something else for that, but for the main interface here, get rid of the hourglass. Now you can click anywhere. It doesn't play that sound unless I'm hovering over one of these buttons. Now it'll do the same thing on every interface that I've had set up like this, so I'll have to come up with different conditions or use another variable, because in the case of the main menu, I want it to be scrollable with the arrow keys. I could set it up like the space stations and stuff and have it so the selector turns off when you move your mouse out and the hover tooltip goes away, and then you can pick up with the arrow keys. We'll see. There's a lot to that bit of setup. But mainly I wanted to get rid of it on this main interface here. It'll also do the same thing here with the context menu, and that's also because I haven't added the mouse over hover here, so that's another thing that I want to do. Context overlay here. Add a variable here called context hover. Actually, I don't even have to use the context menu. I can just use the flight hover variable here. And here in the flight buttons, I want to copy my triggers over here to my context overlay. There are going to be duplicate triggers in here for a second. This is also a mouse touch enter, and I just want to set the tooltip. Delete that. Wait. Yeah. Put that at the beginning. I'll say scan the currently selected planet or object. I'll copy that, come over into my docking. Add this in at the top. And this is going to say a different thing for stations and planets, but I'm just going to use a temporary placeholder right here. I forgot to set, this should be flight hover. There we go. Dock orbit with the selected station planet. This will be a placeholder here. I want to go back and fix that other one. I forgot to change that to flight buttons. There we go. Ta-da! Now, in the mouse touch leave, very last thing, I just want to set that to nothing. I don't even think I have to connect it there. So I'll copy that back to my docking button. Paste that at the end. also need this update. And same for the docking. Forgot to put the up. No, I didn't. Okay. I did put it everywhere, right? Okay, yeah. Let's test that. Alright.
Out of range. Out of range.
Now I can do the same thing here. Actually, I want to go back over here just to copy it. Save that. And we'll grab this. I guess I just needed the condition, not the sound effect. So I'll come back in here. Delete that. Stretch that up here. And instead of interface this, I gotta change this to flight buttons. Well, that should at least alleviate the clicking from happening everywhere I click. That could be quite annoying, actually. So much interface work, I know. This is an interface heavy game, if you haven't noticed yet. I click everywhere.
Out of range. Out of range. Out of range.
Now, it does let me click on it over and over.
Out of range. Out of range.
I can set it up so that it checks the condition of the sprite and prevents that. So there's some things that I'll probably add in there later. Not super important to watch me do.
Out of range. Docking.
Perfect. So everything's working quite nicely, except for my nested interfaces, all the ones that fit into this window. It's going to be kind of weird figuring out how I want to stretch things out if I'm doing interface scaling. I also added the, right now it's just F5, but you can switch into full screen mode. If you're on space map, you can switch into full screen mode. And that's useful for testing as well, because if you enter testing in full screen mode, it will show my frame rate up here as my current capped frame rate limit, which is 60 frames per second. I have to do that in order to keep the speed of everything correct, but to check the frame rate when I'm in full screen, I have to switch to full screen. I just set up a button that toggles between full screen and not full screen. That's about all of the changes that I've added in the last few days. I've still got some work to do on interface scaling, of course. The way that they stay centered, I need this whole bottom bar to be put down here. The return button will have to be over here somewhere. We'll see how I do it, or if I do it. I'm kind of leaning towards keeping everything like this, because it's really difficult to adjust the size of all of these. I could effectively adjust the size of them all, I think, but I'd have to keep the size of anything like this camera field the same. I couldn't increase the size of this because all my images have to be a specific size or they get stretched. That's probably stuff I'll have to figure out and add to my to-do list. So there's a few things I'm going to do later, fixing a few of my save game issues that I'm having. There's gear that's not getting restored correctly, and a couple other things I want to add, like numbering and whatnot. But that might be where I cut off for a little bit, take a little break. I've been doing a lot of brainstorming, concocting stuff for damage scripts and my statistics system. I might get into some stuff with stats and breaking down the way that the main game loop is actually going to work as you go. Now, I've had some requests for some of the scripts that I've worked on, or some of the assets from the game, and I'm still probably going to be putting that together. I don't really want to release all the assets from this project because this is a game that I want to release eventually, but I will probably go over some methods how you can make some of these, like some of the backgrounds and some of the planets and stuff, while using free tools and whatnot, of course. Nothing that you'll have to buy. So that's probably where I'm going to cut it for now. I'm going to take a break. I might jump back on here in a bit. If you haven't gone to screamingbrainstudios.com, you should go right now. There's all kinds of free stuff. My specialty is isometric rendering and procedurally generated graphics. I use nothing but abandoned software. Sometimes I use GIMP to do some editing, but that's about it. Almost everything I use is abandonware. Everything is released under the public domain or CC0 license, so you can use it however you want. You can edit them, you can modify them, you can use them as is, you can use them in free projects or commercial projects. If you donate to my Patreon, you get a special thanks here on the front page. I've got a list of all my patrons. Thank you guys for your support and just being awesome. On the downloads page, there are links to all the different packs you can get. There's tile sets and textures and interface graphics, everything made with abandonware, all abandoned tools. You cannot get them anymore. I might be the last human using some of these tools on the planet. I've also got a compiled list of tutorials, old school graphic techniques, old school tricks, ways to make things like planets, nebulas, backgrounds. And if you don't have any way to make things yet, you can download a whole bunch of stuff from this page of free tools. I've made a giant list of texture tools, terrain generating tools, 3D modeling tools, mapping tools, utilities for capturing recordings and everything. So just go to Screaming Brain Studios. It's my main project. The 001 stuff is kind of what I do on the side. So you can get all of these graphics to use in 001 if you want. They don't have 001 versions, but they are just giant packs of graphics. So you can get most of the assets that I'm working with in this project from these two packs here. There's also probably some textures and stuff that I've used in various ways, but you can get all that for free. You don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to donate if you don't want to, but all the support is appreciated. So otherwise, until next time, I'm going to have to figure out a few things before I start streaming again, but I'd like to cover a few different topics in the next video. I know I've been doing a lot of interface work, but interfaces are most of this game, unfortunately, or fortunately. It's just the way it goes. But I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.